Thank you, Chairman. To piggyback off my colleague, Governor Pritzker, how much does the state of Illinois spend on illegal immigration every year?
Again, illegal immigration, that's a federal responsibility. They could tell how much is wasted as a result of their failures.
Governor, don't you keep track of how many people are on your Medicaid rolls, how many people who are illegal immigrants in the state of Illinois who are getting actually benefits in your state? Doesn't your government keep track of that?
They don't get Medicaid in Illinois or any state, as far as I know.
Governor Pritzker, you do not keep track of any public service dollars in the state of Illinois that goes to illegal immigrants or goes to people in your state who are not legal residents of the United States and of the state of Illinois. You don't keep track of that.
We absolutely keep track of our budget, and we're very closely, and in fact, it's been balanced for 7 years in a row, unlike the Republican before me.
Did you hear that? Pritzker is actually trying to brag about his balanced budget while the state is spending billions on people who shouldn't even be there. It's the classic Democrat pivot. Don't look at the chaos in my streets. Look at this spreadsheet I made. Byron is asking a simple question. How much of your taxpayers' money are you setting on fire for illegal immigration? And they literally don't know, or more likely, they don't want you to know. It's like a business owner not knowing how much money is walking out the back door. It's gross negligence. But hey, at least the budget is balanced according to him, right? Give me a break.
You know, it's interesting. I noticed that in the state of Illinois, you guys don't really keep track of your money because I asked your mayor in Chicago similar question about a month ago, and he didn't have an answer. It was quite interesting. I think this might be an Illinois problem. Governor Hochul, in your state, you are spending about roughly $4 billion on illegal immigration. And at the same time, you are actually asking the federal government for $4 billion to finish Penn Station. Don't you think it would be better to stop funding illegal immigrants in your state and actually use those resources to finish Penn Station as opposed to coming to the federal government for the money?
Penn Station is owned by Amtrak, not by the state, so it's an appropriate use of their dollars, and Donald Trump has agreed to spend upwards of $7 billion. I appreciated that very much. What we spend on immigrants, the immigrants who are here hardworking to live a life and working on our farms and taking care of our parents in nursing homes and taking care of our children, they have been coming here for 400 years. And we don't keep track of individuals based on their status.
Unbelievable. Governor Hochul basically just admitted that the state of New York is a free-for-all. We don't keep track. Of course you don't. Because if you actually kept track of the billions being diverted from New York veterans and homeless families to fund these services, the taxpayers would be outside the Capitol with pitchforks. She's talking about taking care of our children. Whose children, Kathy? Because while you're busy being the world's social worker, actual New Yorkers are fleeing to Florida. They're voting with their feet because they're tired of being treated like second-class citizens in their own state.
We make sure that people have services so we don't end up with an unexpected.
So essentially what you're telling me is that you keep no track of money that is going to people who are not legal in the United States, resources that are taken away from New Yorkers, resources that are taken away from Illinoisans. You guys do not keep track of any of this.
You know what's really challenging is that many people came here with legal status. I mean, temporary protective status, 300,000.
Do you
all of a sudden they wake up one day and it's
do
gone.
you go along with the strategy from the Biden administration, which massively expanded immigration protocols that overwhelmed your city and overwhelmed your state? Do you agree with that?
We call for secure borders. We call for this body to
I
do
never
its
remember
job.
you calling for secure borders at
Nope,
all, Governor Hochul.
We certainly have.
That
We
doesn't
certainly
sound
have.
like him to my memory.
Many conversations I had with the White House. And we asked for federal resources. I mean, you're putting a federal problem on our laps, and you know what? It gets old after a while. I wish you would just do your job.
If your
here
party
and
actually would
pass
do the job of
meaningful
securing
reform.
the nation the way President Trump has now had to do twice, we wouldn't be in this predicament. Wouldn't you agree?
Byron just laid it out perfectly. The governors are sitting there whining that the federal government isn't doing its job. But when Trump actually did the job and secured the border, these same people called him a tyrant. You can't have it both ways. You can't sue the federal government to stop the wall and then cry that the border is open. It's total gaslighting. And did you see Hochul's face? She's got no answer because she knows Donalds is right. Blue states are only sanctuaries until the bill actually comes due. And now that it has, they're looking for a bailout.
It's a
Do you
federal-
agree or
it's a
disagree
federal
that
job.
securing the nation's borders is the job of the President of the United States? President Trump has done that job twice now,
Well,
and previous Democrat presidents have not done that job. Wouldn't you agree with that?
this has been a problem that's been in place since I was a young staffer here on Capitol Hill. We worked on immigration, and Ronald Reagan signed amnesty for 3 million people.
You know, it's
to
interesting
get
you
out
bring
of
up
the situation, so-
Reagan's amnesty in '86. You know, part of that deal was to actually build border wall and secure it, but the Democrat Party refuses to build border wall. You oppose it every single time. Is that your position? Do you now support border walls,
There
Governor
has
Hochul?
been many times when bipartisan legislation is presented to this body and people just walk away from it. They refuse to do the hard work of governing that governors like us have to do every single day. When I leave here, I'm going to go home and govern a state. I'm not going to tweet about this experience because I have too much work to do taking care of New Yorkers. And
You're
keeping
really
them
not doing
safe.
a good job, Governor Hochul, because a lot of New Yorkers are actually coming into my state, in Florida, many of them. They come all the time because they actually want to come to a state that is well-run, that protects citizens, does not allow illegal aliens to victimize citizens like they are victimized in the state of New York, like they are victimized in the state of Illinois, like they are victimized in the state of Minnesota. They choose states like Florida and Texas to find safer places to live and raise their families. Hold on, Governor Hochul. We've had enough
crime
time.
rates are much
Governor
lower than
Walz, you've been
yours,
sitting over there
much
pretty
lower.
quiet. I got a question for you.
I love to talk. Thank you, Congressman.
Fair enough. You said earlier that the ICE agents under the orders of President Trump are a modern-day Gestapo. Do you realize how disgusting a phrase that is, considering the history of Nazi Germany? Would you like to recant that statement?
And here it is, the Gestapo comment. Tim Walz actually compared American law enforcement, the men and women of ICE, to the secret police of Nazi Germany. That is a public disgrace, plain and simple. Think about how radical you have to be to think that people enforcing our literal borders are modern-day Gestapo. It's an insult to history and an insult to the agents. Look at Walz trying to wiggle out of it now with his long history of supporting law enforcement. No, Tim, we saw the tweet. We heard the rhetoric. You can't call them Nazis on Monday and expect a salute on Tuesday. Byron is 100% right to demand an apology. These people have no respect for the rule of law.
What I said, Congressman, and I have a long history of supporting law enforcement, I said President Trump was using them as his modern-day Gestapo, not identifying who you are, coming up in unmarked vans, taking people away and giving...
Is it the responsibility of ICE to actually deport illegal aliens in the United States who are here? Isn't that their responsibility?
Yes, it is, Congressman, except that the Constitution is not an inconvenience. It's not an either-or.
Nobody
You
said
can
an
do your
inconvenience.
job and
He have a
practice due
responsibility to deport illegal aliens, and the
Through due
president is
process.
going through that process right now.
We are
And
not
let's be
just-
very clear, the previous administration, they abused every process there is under border laws to allow more than 10 million people into the country illegally. And this is a burden on all Americans. And so the president is doing his job. So it is sick to refer to Americans who are ICE agents as Gestapo. Governor, you're wrong. You need to apologize to these agents. They're doing their jobs. They are Americans. They serve this country with honor and decency and respect. Do not diminish their work simply because you tried to make a cheap point that you could tweet. I yield back.
These governors don't track how much they're spending on illegal immigration. They don't want to answer basic questions about their budgets. And when pressed, they'd rather lecture Congress about not doing their job while their own states are hemorrhaging residents. Governor Pritzker can't tell you how much Illinois spends on illegal immigration. Governor Hochul can't tell you how much New York spends. They claim they're balancing budgets, but they can't account for billions going to people who aren't even supposed to be here. That's not governing. That's negligence. And then there's Tim Walz, sitting there quiet until he gets called out for one of the most disgusting statements a governor can make, comparing ICE agents to the Gestapo. Think about that. American law enforcement officers doing their jobs, following the law, deporting people who entered this country illegally, and a sitting governor compares them to Nazi secret police. That's not political rhetoric. That's a slander against decent men and women who wear the badge. Here's what really happened in that hearing room. Republican members asked simple questions. How much do you spend? Do you track illegal immigrants receiving benefits? Do you support securing the border? And every single time, these governors deflected, blamed Congress, blamed Trump, blamed anyone but themselves. Governor Hochul actually had the nerve to say, "I wish you would just do your job," while her state is losing population because people are fleeing to Florida and Texas. Maybe, Governor, they're leaving because you're not doing your job. Maybe they're tired of watching their tax dollars fund services for illegal immigrants while their own communities crumble. The truth that came out of that hearing is simple. These blue state governors created this mess by declaring themselves sanctuary states, by refusing to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement, by rolling out the welcome mat for millions of illegal immigrants, and now they want to blame everyone else when the bill comes due. They want federal money to fix their problems. They want Congress to pass legislation. They want President Trump to stop enforcing the law. What they don't want is accountability. They don't want to admit that their policies failed, that their sanctuary city experiments backfired, that their voters are suffering because of decisions they made. And the most telling moment? When Representative Donalds pointed out that New Yorkers are moving to Florida in droves because they want to live in a well-run state that protects its citizens, Governor Hochul had no response. Because there is no response. The numbers don't lie. People are voting with their feet, and they're leaving these poorly governed states behind. So here's my conclusion. These governors had their chance to make their case, to defend their records, to show leadership. Instead, they showed us exactly why their states are in crisis. They can't answer basic questions. They won't take responsibility. And they think calling ICE agents Gestapo is acceptable political discourse. President Trump is doing the job these governors refuse to do. He's securing the border. He's enforcing immigration law. He's making it clear that being in this country illegally has consequences. And if these governors don't like it, maybe they should try actually governing their states instead of tweeting and virtue signaling. The hearing is over, but the reckoning is just beginning. And the American people are watching.